Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Thank you all for coming. We have a real treat tonight. We have Troop 308, the Boy Scout Troop 308 is here tonight, and I'm guessing they're working on some kind of civic merit badge or something. So we're going to make them earn the badge tonight, and we're going to have them lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so I'm going to have the troop leader, Chris New, introduce his Boy Scouts, and if one or all of them would like to lead us in the pledge, that'd be awesome. If everyone would, we're going to introduce them first, and then we'll all stand and remove our headgear and do the pledge.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully I know everybody's name. This is Olin New, Luke Dotson, Ryder Erickson, Jacob Oliver, Bonin, I don't know your last name, Nordby, sorry, and Andrew.
So, we're gonna all stand, and then I'll let you guys lead the pledge. How's that? Awesome. Okay, everyone, please stand.
To the audience, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Is there any motion or discussion in regards to the Patriot complaint discussed in executive session? No. Okay. Public comment is next, and first up, I have Jack Kramer. If you'd come up to the, thank you. Is that on?
No,
that's not here.
It's button. There we go.
Awesome.
The little face with the lines coming out of it?
There we go. There we go. Okay.
Good.
Well, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Jack Kramer. I live in Hope. I have 3 kids at Hope Elementary School, ranging from kindergarten to 5th grade. I'm here to voice my concerns about a recent incident at the school. I'm not going to be using names of students or staff, partly because I don't know, and my concerns aren't necessarily with the incident, but the handling of the situation. Before I get into my concerns, though, I'd like to remind each of you that you guys chose the positions that you are in, whether it be elected, appointed, or hired. You made a commitment in doing so, and your position comes with responsibilities. Responsibilities to the students, to the staff, to the parents, and to the taxpayers that fund the district. One of those responsibilities involves developing, implementing, and following through with a student conduct code, which has requirements of not just students, but parents and staff as well. A code so important, it is given to the students at the beginning of each year. A recent incident involved a portion of the conduct code that involves policy 3325, the 5-page addendum addressing drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. This incident occurred in an elementary school, of all places. My grievances regarding the handling of the situation are the following. First and foremost was a complete lack of any communication to the parents of children at the school. When something so serious occurs on the grounds of an elementary school that involves drugs, alcohol, or tobacco, I believe parents of all students should be notified. I personally witnessed a flurry of rumors while at non-school sanctioned events from parents like myself concerned about the situation and the fact that students involved were still in school. Many, including myself, have been put into the once unfathomable position of discussing drugs, alcohol, and tobacco with our kindergartners. The same kindergartners learning to write the alphabet and learning to share. Next is twofold concerning the specifics of the policy itself. You should be asking if law enforcement was brought in. Also, in accordance with that policy, the superintendent is to lead a reentry meeting. And only after that reentry meeting is a decision actually made as to whether the students will be allowed back. You should ask if that actually happened. Also ask yourselves, if students are expected to follow the conduct code and the policies associated with it, should the same be expected of the leaders? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Sharon? Give me 3.
My name is Sharon Banning.
I did, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
She,
With the lines by the mouth. Next one.
Okay, again, my name is Sharon Banning, and I want to talk to you about the same issue. I didn't know somebody else was, and I'm so glad he was here and said what he said. We did have an incident at our school involving hard liquor and the sharing of it with other students. I think this is a really serious happening. The people that I talked to didn't seem to think it was so serious, but I think at an elementary school, an incident like this needs to be dealt with in the way that you say there's zero tolerance. Well, I'm not experiencing zero tolerance, I'm experiencing tolerance and intolerance of those who make complaints about it. I spoke with Sean, I spoke with Pearlie, I spoke with Sherry. I was not satisfied with any of my interactions. It seemed to be blasé. Oh well, now second year in a row we've had an incident with alcohol and the parents have not been notified. I think we passed up a really wonderful opportunity to communicate with the parents that this happens so that they can discuss this with their children, especially those who have heard rumors, saw what happened, don't know what the ramifications are, and also an opportunity to remind parents to keep their liquor, pharmaceuticals, paraphernalia under wraps where their kids cannot get them and take them. I know that's an awesome responsibility and it needs to be done through high school. I'm alarmed that our precious little school has had to deal with this 2 times in a row, and I got to tell you, the atmosphere there isn't so pretty. There's a lot of people who are wondering why the guilty seem to be protected and the innocent seem to be just Zero tolerance means zero tolerance. I would like to see the students that have a district-wide reaction to this that would remove the student from the school, put the student in another school, and make the parent responsible to take them. Maybe if parents were threatened with that, they'd pay attention to their kids. So let's see something, and let's please see some communication with the parents. I'm going to be putting something on Facebook because I've waited and waited for some kind of communication with the parents. So I'll be the communication with the parents. Shouldn't have to be that way. Also, I would like to express my discontent with the makeup of our classrooms, first through third, and 4th through 6th.
Sharon, you need to wrap it up.
Okay, I'll wrap it up.
We're over 3.
Sixth grade students are in a whole different element than 4th grade students. In 4th grade, little girls get crushes, and when they're in a classroom every day with a 6th grade student that they have a crush on, it doesn't make for good. I'm in the classroom, I'm watching what's happening. I wish somebody else would.
All right, thank you, Sharon. I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Phil, are you here? Yep. Hi. Yeah, there you go. You're up next. Well, with Wade and DJ, I guess. But there's a Clark Fork offsite prom request. I'll let you introduce the
I will do that.
students.
This lucky young man without his sidekick is
Uh-oh.
Wade Stevens.
Welcome.
So Wade, what happened to your wingman?
He's gone today.
You got cold feet, huh? All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's okay. You're here. Good for you.
So, we want to have prom at the Beyond Hope. June 3rd. And I would request you guys approve our off-site.
Right. So we got some real softball questions for you, so relax, it's okay, all right? I'm assuming, because you actually have Mr. Kimmick here, that you've actually run this by administration and they think it's okay.
Yeah.
Good. And do you recall what the cost is?
It's $300.
Okay, well, that's actually pretty reasonable, yeah. And I'm glad that you guys are choosing a location that's close to home. I know we've had requests in the past where they, you know, I mean, they don't exactly want to go to Canada, but it's like, why are we going so far from home? And everyone's got to drive, and that doesn't make anybody feel good. So I think that was a very wise choice to stay close to home. So, you know, good job on that. Does anyone have any questions? No?
I guess where is prom is traditionally held? Does it vary from year to year?
All over the place.
They have in the past, on rare occasion, come into town here, which, I mean, that's, I don't know. I'm not a big fan, because
I think
that's
it was
not a
here
real
last
city.
year.
Huh?
Yeah.
I think it was here last
Yeah.
year.
You know,
Here we've had Fan State Building.
Right.
It's just, it's
It varies.
around.
yeah, I'm real pleased you guys found something a little closer to home. That's nice.
And you've done a nice job raising some funds up till now, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. This is going to require a motion if somebody,
I would like to make a motion that we approve the Clark Fork request for off-site prom location.
Second.
been moved and seconded. Any more questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good job, Wade. See, that wasn't that painful, was it? Come on. Attaboy. Okay. The superintendent's next to designate school psychologist as hard to fill position. You want to explain why we're doing this, please?
Yes, you bet. So this will be the third year that we've asked that you all do this. It's a state requirement if we are going to give leadership premiums to any of our staff members in the area of hard to fill positions, you all have to designate the position as hard to fill. So school psychologists are the only position that we, as a school district, currently believe fits under the intent of that law. There's other positions that are definitely hard to fill, I would say, but the issue is it's dependent upon timing and things like that. No matter when we open a school psychologist position, we just get a handful of applicants. And I'm not sure that the additional $3,000 makes a difference, but it makes us at least a little bit more competitive for a very small pool.
So clarify that leadership stipend helps make the job a little more attractive when you're putting it out there for hire.
You bet. As
And
far as
the-
recruiting.
This helps recruit and retain.
And this hard to fill designation allows us to
Exactly.
offer it.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, where do you recruit?
We recruit nationwide, so there's all kinds of different online services that we use to for the job postings. I know we've gone to different universities to try to recruit. We call nationwide, you know, people that are just coming out of college. Our last person, I believe, that we hired, who's just phenomenal, actually was doing her internship. I mean, we recruited her, we interviewed her, but she still had not completed all of her hours. So, I mean, that's how dire it really is. We have an opening right now we're trying to fill. We just lost a school psych, unfortunately. Not lost as in, I mean, they left the district, okay, just to be clear. And we still don't have any applications in the pool, but, so.
So I would make a motion that we approve the designation of school psychologist as a hard to fill position.
Second.
Move and second. Any more questions for the superintendent? No.
No, good
All
luck.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Actually, I'm going to throw it right back to you to discuss the negotiated agreement. We've concluded negotiations. The Vice Chair, Mr. Lewis, and I were on the team representing the board with Superintendent Tom Albertson. Who else? Do we have anybody on our team?
Just us four.
Us four.
And Tom.
Okay. And so you're gonna go over the highlights of that the final negotiations.
Yes, so I do want to remind you all that we use an interest-based bargaining mechanism to do our negotiations, and I'm not sure how long the district has utilized that, but it's opposed to a more positional bargaining approach. And I think Geraldine and Steve and Tom and Brian, our LPOEA president, is here, that when you're doing positional bargaining, it feels like there's two distinct teams. When you're doing interest-based bargaining, you're sitting around the table and it feels like you're one team, the administration and the association. So it goes much smoother that way, but it takes a lot of time to develop those good, positive relationships. Our contract there's very few changes, and I think you all have one in front of you here. And we have Melanie, our senior HR specialist, I believe is here, as well as Brian. If one of us should be able to answer your questions.
So before you start, then, do you want to take questions as you go along then? Or do you want to wait?
Sure, that's great.
If we do that,
Yeah.
so then I'll instruct the board that if you have any questions, I'm not going to stand on ceremony with this because I'll be looking at him. So if you have any questions, just jump in.
Okay. The first year I was on the school board, I was part of the initial go at doing the interest-based bargaining, and we had a lot of help from people coming in from the University of Idaho, and they kind of led us through the whole process. But it does take longer, but you get really good results.
Yeah, especially on the front end. And then once we've been doing it for so many years, it doesn't take quite as long. So. All right, so starting at the top here on certificated in-building transfers. So the bold item is the only change. And all it really says is that normally if there's an opening in building, there's a 3 school day period that we wait for people to share their interest. If vacancy occurs during the fiscal year in which a position needs to be filled now, the district-wide posting can begin immediately after the first day of the in-building posting if the building administrator notifies each of the qualified employees in the building and all of those employees provide some sort of verbal or written communication that they have no interest in the position. So we do that. We're wanting to do this just so we can speed up the process and ensure that we can get the very best in a given position.
So a lot of these things come about because of things that happen throughout the year, and we went, oops, maybe we can make this better.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'll just keep moving and stop me if you need to.
Sure.
The next piece is certificated voluntary transfers between buildings. So after all of our transfers within a building have been completed, the superintendent, a principal, or a director may seek out a voluntary transfer prior to posting the position. And if let's just say that I knew of a couple of people that might be interested perhaps, I could go to HR and request that an email notification goes out to all of the qualified certified employees. Those that are interested would have 3 days to respond to the request, and then those names would be forwarded to the superintendent. The superintendent, after consulting with the affected administrators, may approve a requested transfer, and the employee must confirm a continued interest. The next piece there, this is something that Brian and I have talked about for several years now. There really wasn't a mechanism for us to allow employees to switch buildings with another, so let's just say we have a teacher at Hope Elementary, and actually this happened in the time that I was here, a teacher at Hope, a teacher at Farman, and for whatever reason they wanted to make a switch. We really didn't have a mechanism for that if there really wasn't an opening. So this just says 2 employees may submit a request to exchange positions within the district. Such a request must be submitted by April 1st. The superintendent, after consulting with the affected administrators, may switch the teaching assignments of the employees. And again, employees must confirm a continued interest. So just allows us to I think the example was the affected employees based on where they lived, and both fantastic teachers and principals would have been delighted to make a move in that particular case. But that's an example that would allow us to do that. So let's see, credit reimbursement. Let's see here, 1 second. Each certified employee shall be reimbursed up to $200 during each 5-year period. And Brian, you might have to refresh my memory on this one. We struck the equivalent of the current professional development rate for 3 credits. Remind me of the difference on that one.
It was just that language of 200 was already there, but it had kind of dueling language. It said at the professional development rate up to $200. That's right. And so this just made it clear it was just up to $200. It's kind of cleaned up in that way.
Just language cleanup, no change to practice. All right, so we're down to extracurricular pay, extra duty pay, and contractual pay. This is just simply all extracurricular coaching athletic positions shall be posted prior to being filled. And then the next piece is about longevity pay, that the piece where there shall be an additional 3% for every year of employment in the same activity. That's only for the first 2 years. It's our intent that an additional 10% shall be granted after 7 years. So that's encouraging people to stay, and again, it's the intent that would happen. And then a new hire may be granted up to 3 years of experience toward pay. So instead of 2, we move to 3.
Which I believe the intent is that we can increase that every
Year up to the.
or at least consider the increase every year.
That's right.
So we're just taking it incrementally.
That's right, exactly, yeah. Let's see, so class size, this just highlights special education teachers whose caseloads are comparatively high are encouraged to basically notify their administrator of any concerns they have about class size. And that's something that just spells it out really clearly. They weren't prohibited from doing that before, but we wanted to make sure it was in there so people knew to do that. Down to the salary schedule, each year we have been moving that step forward. So we move from a new employee's placement that shall not exceed step 10. We move from 9 to 10. And then there's a stipulation in there that, as far as a cell that corresponds to his or her placement when they left their previous district's employment, they would be moved if it results in a better placement than the certified new hire conversion chart. So it's just that if was added. And then moving down to credits beyond the teaching degree. I'll back up. Up on top there, we struck that credit hours for recertification must be graduate level. They do not. It's not a state law. Undergraduate courses are just fine as long as the credits follow under 3A, B, C, and D. And of course D, that's the new bold, they must be eligible for use in recertification. So for those credits beyond the teaching degree. And moving down, I think we had a conversation here about the occupational specialists. So we have the career technical education classes that people from different industries come in and can teach for us. And if an employee is also eligible for, they're actually eligible for additional pay if he or she holds a specialist certificate in a subject area in which they teach. I think that's just in the past year we've been able to do that. It's a new state deal there. And then it just stipulates the amount of pay for each A, B, and C. And let's see here, those with an occupational specialist, it spells it out further, shall receive a $2,500 addition to the regular salary. And the state is doing that to encourage those out in the industry to come in and teach some of our career type classes. And moving down to 10. Is that where we're at, Steve?
Yeah. We just took out the terminal.
Oh, there we go. Yep, just struck some language there.
Yeah.
And then finally, family medical leave. We just wanted to make this, Melanie Almeida pointed this out, each employee of the district whose leave qualifies under the Federal Family Medical Leave Act shall be entitled up to 12 weeks. So the leave must qualify, and that we wanted to make sure that was spelled out. And then we're adding to the extracurricular page, peer tutor advisor, as well as a weight room monitor. And then 8 shows the insurance increases, which were, as Lisa stated at the last meeting, much lower than we anticipated, which is great news. And in the bottom part, the change in benefits, we talked about this at our last bargaining session, add preventative prescription coverage for those on the HSA medical plan. All other plans remain the same. The total cost, actually, we thought it was a little bit higher, but the total cost to the district is $250.80.
All right.
So it's-
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's just so few people that actually are on that HSA medical plan. So,
All right.
so Brian, would you like to add, if I forgot anything? That's pretty much, I think we covered it all.
Only that the association considered this today as well, and ratified 100% support for it.
By the way, I like the new GQ look.
Yeah, I knew you were going to comment.
It's time for his summer haircut, and I always like it. I had to comment, I'm sorry.
I knew you were not going to let that go.
No.
Steve, I had a couple questions.
Please,
just
go.
as I'm catching up here. Top of page 2, Sean.
Yeah.
The employee switch. I guess, can you try to understand the benefits of that versus going through the normal process?
You bet. So normally we would have, that's a great question. Normally there would have to be an opening at a school. So let's say I taught at Hope Elementary School, but I really want to teach in town. If there was no opening in a particular school, then there was no way that I could do it. And oftentimes some of the schools might go a year that there's no hiring being done. So if I lived in town and I had a friend that lived out in Hope, and I said, boy, wouldn't it be great if we could switch positions? It just allows for that to happen. Doesn't mean it will happen, because it would have to be.
I mean, do you see potential conflict of limiting another potential educator who was looking to teach in a certain area that?
There's no net add or deletion of a job here.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, so it doesn't, it allows for the ability for increased mobility for staff if they so desire, and it's a good fit in the building. So it doesn't limit, it only adds the likelihood that that could happen without any openings.
Is there some criteria for you, since you're the person kind of approving that, to have some basis or foundation in which it would be approved or not, so that it's maybe not so open for you? It
would have to, I mean, the big litmus test really is, it would have to be a good fit as far as I'm concerned, and the principals are concerned that they have, I don't know that we need to specify this piece, but we want to ensure that we're moving stellar staff, right? We're not, I'll use a example though, a real example that I've had in my career has been staff members that maybe weren't performing at the level that they could have been in a building. In both cases, and I remember being in a building as a principal 20 years ago where this happened. And the example was, oh, that's interesting. Somebody's going to leave my building that might not be so happy in my building, and I'm receiving someone that's not so happy in their building. And I was a little skeptical, thinking, is this going to work out? And the truth of the matter is, my building was a much better fit, and to this day is one of my favorite employees I've ever had. Just a dynamite, stellar teacher that really needed to change the environment. So I mean, it would cover those kinds of things as well. It would not be taken lightly or done kind of in a haphazard fashion. It may be very rare that we actually would even do this. And Brian and I have talked about it for quite a while. Can you think of any other things that I missed, Brian?
It could even be a grade level fit. Sometimes when an individual gets hired, they may take the opening that's available, but maybe they take a primary position, but they specialize more in intermediate. And then that switch could, and maybe someone in intermediate did the same thing. And now you can actually really fit those individuals into those spots.
No, I can see the benefits. I'm just kind of thinking
No, it's
devil's
great.
advocate of
No, absolutely.
where the
Right.
pitfalls
So,
could be.
so sometimes there are unintended consequences.
Sure.
And that's a good point.
Yep.
But that's why this works for a year. And, okay, so first,
Yeah.
wait, I want to spin off of that and say that firstly, I appreciate the time that Brian spends with the superintendent all the way through the year to discuss these things in real time and work on them, and then, they really bring a lot of, not only the issues, but some solutions they've been working on between them, okay, to our negotiations meeting annually. But they've worked on these things all year round, instead of just letting it, I'll put that problem in the file, and then we'll all talk about that when negotiations comes. So these things are an ongoing discussion that they work when, a lot of times it's an object lesson, and sometimes it's just, it comes out of, the thought comes out of a situation. So anyway, the negotiated agreement is a one-year deal. And if there's unintended consequences, then you clean it up next year. But it's a great question. But it seems to be that in my mind, when they were presented, it seemed to make total sense to me. It is probably going to be really rarely used, quite frankly. Yeah.
And it was and this was definitely a joint interest, a shared interest. But if it kind of didn't go well on either side of the coin, I guess, it's probably one again that would come up and say, yeah. That's maybe
that's a good.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you just got to take a shot and see what happens, and then next year, pick it up at that point in time. That's not uncommon, by the way, to go back and revisit something and thought it was going to work, but maybe didn't quite work out that way. And then also in regards to the interest-based bargaining, which I know started well in advance of when I came on, whatever that was, 5 years ago or whatever it was. But I can tell you that even with interest-based bargaining, it still takes two teams in good faith with a common goal. And the one thing that's not changed in all the times I've been doing this, everyone shows up at the table with the same common goal. And how can we make this organization better to produce our product, which is student achievement? And that's been the common goal. It's been consistent throughout the whole thing. And I tell you what, everything else that comes out of that just seems to roll right out. I don't know how you feel about that. I would absolutely. And so a lot of making that happen is Brian, and my hat's off to you. I certainly, over all these years, have really appreciated how you approach that. And it's always been, what's best for the kids, and that's a great place. It's a great place to be debating issues. So, any more? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one more question. Page 4, number 7, with respect to the stipends. Are those, I probably should understand this, but are those stipends, are those one-times, or those continuing on their?
It's a continuing,
okay,
yeah.
So as they add those, does the one stipend go away and now it's the new hires?
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Or are they in addition to?
So yeah, it's not cumulative, one on top of the other.
One goes away when you get the next one. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. That kind of came out of, I don't know, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, it's all right, okay, but it sort of came out of the Luna era when there was discussions about performance-based pay and how to work it in, and it ended up to be, this was how it ended up looking, more of a leadership and remuneration for, what was considered valuable in place of. So we really never got to the performance part, even though it was a big discussion, but we ended up with this, and it's survived for quite some time now, and it seems to be working well and well received. Go.
So when they did develop the career ladder, one of the pieces that wasn't part of it was any level of education. And when the state board conducted their hearings across the state, that was a common theme that they heard, is that there should be some consideration of the levels of education. Right, not like it used to be. The old schedules, and still exist in a lot of places in Idaho, that are based on, 10 credits, 20 credits, 30 credits. And they wanted to go away from that system, and the state did, we did as well as a local district, but they did want to recognize some levels of education, so they established both those levels that you see to be 824.
Right, which is down from like how many?
Oh, yeah, several, I don't remember how many columns.
Yeah, we almost had to put the page on a horizontal page instead of a vertical one, so. Anyway, that's.
Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in on that, Brian. Any more? Earl, you got anything?
No, but I do have a motion.
Okay, well, I want to make sure that Matt's done. Are you
good.
You're good?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to remove first reading of deleted policies 602, .9 probation period and 604.9 meet and confer from the agenda at this time.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Tell me which numbers again? 602.9.
602.9 and 604.9.
604.9. To be held on a later date. No discussion?
Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, good. All right, now back to the negotiated agreement. If everyone finds this acceptable and that there's no more questions, then I do need a motion.
And I would make a motion that we approve the negotiated agreement for 2017 and 18 as presented.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more questions for the superintendent?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and then what next up is...
So,
It's the birthday girl!
on April 24th and 25th, I attended the law seminar for school boards and administrators down in Boise, and it was, again, very informative. There were 2 days worth of presentations. I went to everything they had, and it was great. They went through talks on employment law, student abuse, planning for bond elections, best practices, current legal issues. Then we had some lunch sessions about the legislative sessions, laws and regulations. I'll just say that my favorite one actually was the ethical governance presentation. That was on Tuesday morning, and it talked a little bit about the kind of relationship between people in government, but also then community and any elected people, and developing that relationship. And it was put on by Brian Kane, our Deputy Attorney General. He's spoken to us before when we went, and he does a great job. I learned a lot. He had a quote he used twice that I liked. He said, "Sunlight is the best disinfectant." And was his reference to being completely transparent. And I just learn a lot when I go down there. I enjoy it, and I realize there is a lot of details, a lot of laws and regulations that apply to an entity like a public school that receives federal and state dollars, and a lot of code. And the more we can familiarize ourselves with all the details, the better. So.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that and taking the time away from your home and family to go down and do that. And most people might think that a law conference might be a little dry and boring, but I can tell you, this is, it is anything but.
It's a great presentation they do.
Yeah, and they do a fabulous job. And
as I said at the last conference I attended, I take notes, and if people are interested in seeing the content that's provided, I can loan this binder out. I don't think it's wise to just start printing copies, but I'm happy to loan it out, and the content is actually on their website too. So
nice.
There's good information there if anybody else wants to share my binder.
Good. Thank you, Geraldine. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, so next up we have a whole long list of policies. This is something that we're going to be doing for the rest of this board's term to try to get caught up. We've had so many we've had so many things going on that we really haven't had a chance to work on a lot of policy, so we're going to try to get caught up.
Yep.
Melanie's going to, she's going to take over and go through these. I want to ask you a question, same thing I asked the superintendent. So as you're going through these, and you can go through each of the first reading policy, I mean, I think the deleted ones we can probably agree on.
We don't need you to read.
Yeah, right. But the new ones, okay, the first readings, would you like questions as you go through them, or do you want to wait till you get to the end of that policy and then take questions?
I think as we go is probably best.
As you go? Okay, so same thing. If the board has any questions, since we're all going to have our eyes up there, just go ahead and speak up. Ed, it's yours. Your
Thank you.
floor is yours.
Just as an introduction, this process is one that I've been working on specifically for a little more than a year through moving all of our, essentially the ultimate goal will be to move all of the current 400 and 600 series policies into the ISBA modeling system, numbering system. Most will land in the 5,000 series because they all apply to personnel. Some will land in other places, and you'll see some of that tonight. So the first, of course, is the district committees, which is not current practice and already is included in other policies. And then to this process, for those of you who we haven't had as much opportunity to go through this, so tonight will be first reading. If you have any suggested changes, this is the time to make those. If you have any questions, I'll take those back and research, and then at the next meeting, we'll go through second reading, and at that point, then there's motion to approve and accept those policies. And for those of you in the audience, this promises to be the most riveting thing you have ever been to at a school board meeting.
Next week we'll have
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
So the first is policy 3255, student conduct code. And this will be adding simply at the bottom of this policy what is current policy 405.5 regarding staff protection. And changes here in these policies, added language is indicated in bold, and changed or deleted policy is indicated with strike through.
Okay,
Right.
Melanie, I have a question on this one.
Go.
Section 2A14, under weapons, it says C504.6 BP. There is no 504.6 anymore. I believe it's 3315.
You said 27,
Section 2A14.
It's on the,
yeah.
toward the bottom of page.
Yes, I
So I
have.
have the same question, actually, and if you could maybe bring that to the second reading,
I will research that and confirm.
that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
There's actually 4 of those in here.
Okay.
And
is it
On the next page,
in the same policy?
yes.
Okay.
B14 on that
Yeah.
one.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
B14 again, truancy, 504.5, I believe it should be 3055.
3055.
Yes.
And you said there were 4 total?
Yeah, there's another
There's-
one, there's actually 2 that reference the same. Section 3, under sanctions, it's C4. It says C-Board Policy 505.3. I believe it should be 3340, but I couldn't find the conditions of suspension in that. And then on the last page, Section 4, hearing procedures as set forth in District Policy 505.3, probably should be 3340 also.
Thank you. This is why we have more eyes than one set.
Oh.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes.
Do you have any more, Bro?
No, that's it.
Okay. So on the same policy, I had a few questions. Okay, so on the extracurricular, I guess what I'm uncertain of, because I don't remember what all the numbers are for the different policies. I can remember going through a policy, but I couldn't tell you I remember going through an extracurricular one. I remember making changes, I think maybe a year ago in one, and my question is, are we replacing the one that we worked on fairly recently with this one, or does that other one still exist?
The other would still exist.
The other one still exists, okay. Because that one, there was a lot of work done on it, and I just want to make sure it's
And
still.
the only ones that you'll see as far any replacement would like be in bold, it might say, hey, we're moving this into.
But I can't, I just don't recall the number. That's why I'm asking for the help. I don't, if Tom or Chris were here, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but no, that's not.
We're fine, all right. And then the other thing, and I was trying to read this with this in mind, but this was a rather lengthy one. And I'm hoping it's a common thread through all of the policies that have disciplinary action in it. And that is that there's a certain amount of discretion that's afforded the principal. And I don't know if that's.
Yeah, none of that's being addressed in this one.
I couldn't find it, is my question.
Yeah, no, that's another policy, and that's our discipline ladder. It says administrator discretion can be used, so yeah.
All right.
So nothing's
So
leaving.
that's not going to change?
Nope.
This is not going to change that?
Yeah, and for all of these, so you guys all know, because that's a great question, it'll be clearly stated if something's being removed. So everything remains the same unless Melanie is outlining that it's being taken out.
Okay.
Which I need to actually correct myself too. I had mentioned that the only change was an addition at the end of this policy, and there's actually one other just grammar change on the
False finding
middle
report.
of page 2, number A7.
Yeah.
Yep.
The next is a change, revision to current policy 3510. Simply adding at the end of that policy, this will, current policy 60420 is already incorporated into this current policy 3510. So I'm simply adding that as a reference as previous policy, and adding cross-reference to the negotiated agreement, and then updating those references there for the legal.
Yep. Okay.
New policy 5010 is regarding negotiations that we've discussed already tonight in the course of looking at the negotiated agreement. There is no ISBA model policy for this, so this is language that I provided a suggestion to the superintendent and the LPOEA president and made some modifications with their input before presenting this to you as well.
Okay.
5010, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
I can't believe we haven't had this somewhere.
I'm
We've been
surprised.
doing it for so long.
Yeah.
So I have a question on this one, since it is a new, what did 40513 say, that previous policy that's no longer?
Yeah, the title of the current policy 40513 is negotiations.
Okay.
It says specifically, negotiations with the designated representative of the professional employees for the county of Bonner shall be conducted according to the procedures as outlined in the adopted procedural agreement. Either the Board of Trustees or the designated representative of the professional employee may give notice to the other of their desire to amend or terminate the agreement pursuant to the terms of the procedural agreement then in force. And there's a reference here too on the current policy to Bonner County School District number 82. It was last revised in July of 1996.
So this replaces that. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
The next suggested revision is to current policy 5240 regarding sexual harassment. And the simple change here is an addition of a cross-reference to the grievance policy. If someone were to need to bring a sexual harassment claim or not be satisfied with the process, then their next step would be grievance.
I'm sorry, the next step would be what?
To file a grievance.
Okay, thanks.
The next new policy being suggested is 5270 regarding personal conduct. This is primarily based on ISBA model policy, would incorporate current policy 405.12, 405.10, and 604.1. Also administrative procedures that are associated with 2 of those policies.
Are we on 5270?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay.
And it's for the superintendent and the board. So when I was going through this, when we got to the actual language of accept gifts or benefits in excess of $50, and then there's a lot of language in addition to all of that, and something had occurred to me, and so I'll give you the punchline and then come back to what occurred to me. The punchline is, I think that there should be something in here that gives the superintendent some, the authority to make an exception. So let's say ISBA comes up with, I'm just making this up, Teacher of the Year, and it's going to be a trip to Washington, D.C. to whatever. Well, that seems to me that it's going to be in excess of $50. Is that covered somewhere else? Because this sounds like it would prevent it. And I think there needs to be language. I mean, you know what the intent of this is, right? It's someone's trying to advance their personal station, based on their position. But it
yeah, I don't believe. I mean, if you read through that.
I'm reading the letter. I'm not, I mean, I know what the intent is, but I'm reading the letter.
Well, right. So if you go back to the beginning, in addition to the conduct enumerated in the line code of ethics, an employee should not dispense or utilize any information gained from employment with the district, except gifts.
Wait, comma. Except, so, I mean, and then the next item is except gifts or. The way that reads to me, it's not tied to the first part of that sentence.
Right.
So
we could actually, on that particular one.
So either we change the grammar or you've got to stick something in there that gives you the authority to.
Yeah, because I mean,
Oh, you're good, okay. Well, go ahead.
Well, I think having a policy like this keeps us in line with Idaho code, which is, it's written this way in Idaho code 13.
This is parallel to what no, I get that.
And we just discussed it, so I think that having our code align with, I'll defer to.
And I believe the code is under bribery and corrupt practice. What we can do is this, since it's first reading, we'll go back.
Just look at
what that actually says.
Idaho Code 1356, and it just helps us be aligned with Idaho Code so that we're not.
We want to do that, but
Yeah.
You answer the question for me then, Ms. Legal Beagle. If we get a teacher that wins an award and they get a trip to Washington, D.C., it's more than $50, does that fall under that?
So I would have to, I actually will get back to you on that.
Okay.
Because it implies that you are getting something from the gift.
Right. So since I'm not an attorney and I read this thing and there was a comma and it seemed to me that it separated from that. And the title, by the way, is not the title of a law that has no meaning to what's in the law.
Right.
Okay, so I want to make sure, it's just a question.
We can run this
No,
by
it is a good
Brett
question.
Walter and just say, look, because we have people that go to DC and this happens and they get that benefit would be
so this seems to me like that would say, well, you can't do that.
Yeah, we can
do it, and having the language in there is correct because it aligns with the state code, but then
maybe there's a clarification that needs to be made. That's all.
I agree.
The way I read it, that could be a problem, or it's a gray area if it's open for interpretation and we need to close that loop.
I hear you.
Yeah. We'll come back with more information.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is 5340, evaluation of certificated personnel. And throughout this one, it's truly, at the moment, simply updating language to match our current process and to update based on changes in Idaho code. I will let you know that we will be revisiting this again in the summer because Idaho code has changed once again.
Right. So I have a question.
Sure.
It's for Brian and Sean both. I thought somewhere in the Charlotte Danielson model for us that there's a value-added component in there somewhere. I thought we had something in there, a value-added. For example, if you're teaching the math club, or if you're coaching a sport, or some such thing, something above and beyond the teaching. I thought there was a value-added component.
We have like a tiebreaker type thing.
Yeah.
And if there was,
that relates to both the potential involuntary transfer language and the RIF language. So where value added would be considered.
but it's in that Charlotte Danielson, isn't it in the Charlotte?
It's in that policy that Charlotte Danielson is spoke to first, because that's the evaluation, which is the first stage.
Okay, so what I'm thinking about is in the policy, not in the evaluation model.
Exactly.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions before I get to that? Okay. The next is 5350. This would be a new policy replacing several that are current in the 400 and 600 series. This is based on the ISBA model. And nothing is bolded here because this is a completely new policy. So the whole thing would be an addition.
This is 5350.
Correct. The next is suggested new policy 5370, titled Non-School Employment by District Employees. This would incorporate current policy 405.6, again based primarily on ISBA model, and adding language specific to our district, that the second to last paragraph there, teachers shall not engage in private tutoring during the school year without written authorization from the superintendent.
So that's a new addition?
That is currently included in current policy 405.6.
405.6.
And this would be moving that concept to the new 5370, which is based on ISBA model. And then that specific language would be specific to our district, is not currently included in the ISB model language.
I got a question. So that's specific to tutoring. Does coaching fall?
No.
So, coach, this is non-school
Right.
employment, so they're being,
Coaching is part of the salary schedule. It's covered in a different area.
yeah, and so this is if they're getting, they're basically subcontracting themselves out to parents.
Well, I guess I was thinking in the same way that coaches could do the same, doing private lessons and other things on the side.
And that is separate
That falls
from
in a
their
separate
coaching
area.
category, right? Yeah, good point.
Next would be new policy 5380 regarding professional research and publishing. This is again based on the ISBA model and would incorporate current policy 405.3. The next is suggested new policy 5413 regarding professional leave. There is no ISBA model for this, so I based it largely off of current policy 404.6 and its associated procedures. And again, this was reviewed both with the superintendent and the LPOEA president. And this is largely already in practice, just moving to the numbering.
Okay.
Next would be suggested new policy 5430 regarding health and life insurance benefits. This is based loosely on the ISBA model to match practice in our district. And it would incorporate two current policies, one specific to certified and one specific to classified. The next would be new policy 5435, titled tax sheltered annuities. There is, again, no ISBA model for this policy. This is based on current practice and would replace two current policies which are identical to each other, but one specific to certified and one specific to classified and staff. So another goal of mine in this process is to eliminate the need for separate policies for different groups when, in this particular case, for instance, the policy is identical, just in two separate places.
Okay, why do, I have a question. If you wanted to, if an employee wanted to contribute to a tax sheltered annuity, they can't just go do it, it has to be approved?
Oh, it's saying.
Those contributions are typically made through payroll deduction. So the district maintains a list of qualified tax shelter annuity accounts that employees can choose from to contribute to.
But they could not go outside of that?
Sure, if they could.
Just couldn't be
it wouldn't
deducted.
be a tax sheltered annuity because they would not be making their contributions through payroll deduction.
Yeah. Okay.
The next is suggested new policy 5600 regarding contagious or infectious disease. This would replace current policy 405.21 regarding staff health and safety, and this is based on ISBA model. The next is new policy 5615 regarding first aid and CPR. This is more specific in the positions that are listed who require CPR first aid certification. Our curriculum secretary is the one that coordinates that currently for the district. We have training once a month for any district staff who requires that certification or renewal. And she gets questions often from staff about, is it required for my position? If it is required, it's also included in that employee's job description. But what happens is we sign the job description when the person's hired and then it gets filed in their employee file. And this makes it a little easier to reference which positions require that certification. There's also an addition here for bloodborne pathogens. We do currently have a policy that includes the handling of bloodborne pathogens, but this would add a requirement that is already in place through OSHA. This just specifies that the district will comply and provide that training to all of the staff.
Okay.
The next would be revised policy 6121, simply adding a reference to current policy 601.1, which is already incorporated in the current policy, and then modifying just the format of the policy update or policy history section. The next is revised policy 7336 regarding travel. Just adds in this the language that the approval must be granted prior to traveling by the employee's supervisor and the superintendent or designee. And then again, modifying the format for the policy references. The next is revised policy 9311, which would currently incorporates several other policies in the 400 and 600 series. We would simply be adding references to those and deleting those policies.
Yep.
And the last is revision to current policy 9320, again, simply referencing a policy that's already incorporated there. And that's it for this group. If there aren't any other questions, that's all we need to.
Right, this is the first reading, so yeah, there's no motion necessary.
Okay.
Let's see, why don't we just go ahead and take care of the two policies that need to be acted upon tonight, is that correct?
I don't think there are any that require action tonight.
The two that he referenced, what, that just precluded the need for a second reading, right?
Well, they won't be given a second reading at this time.
Right.
We've already done that, I made the motion and
I just pulled those two.
Correct. Those two are all. Hold those two off.
Discuss it. Yeah, those are just kind of taken off, and we might bring those back at a later time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me, I misunderstood that. All right, go ahead. So these ones that you're deleting, are these the ones that you were referencing as we went through the ones up on top?
Yes.
Are there any in here that were not referenced?
Yes, there are two. Thank you. 602.2 job description and 602.13 reclassification of classified staff will be presented to you in a modified policy at a later date. So those are on the current agenda but not addressed in this group.
Okay.
Okay.
Good?
Good?
Thank you very much. That was a huge amount of work. I
Thank
recognize
you.
that, and we appreciate it.
Well, and I don't do it alone. I really want to give credit to the people who provide their input as well.
That's true, and I appreciate that. So,
Thank them too, of course.
so announcements, I guess. There was already an important announcement in the paper that it's Geraldine's 29th birthday, so I guess we don't have to cover that, but
Right.
do you have anything?
I have, I think you might have, I don't know if I brought this up to you guys or not, but Southside School is a national distinguished Title I school, and they received their plaque at a neat ceremony at the State Title I Conference. And just to remind you that the award was for closing the achievement gap between student groups, specifically students of poverty and those not, so the gap's getting narrower there, so that's great. And then you saw that SHS, I think, continues to improve in the statewide rankings, and the national rankings. We'll be number one in no time in Idaho, but we need to keep going in the state, as far as our national rankings are concerned. And the great thing about it is, I just have to share this, there's been a couple of negative letters in the B about the honor, which perplexes me to no end. But there was some criticism around the fact that our students in mathematics aren't achieving at a high enough rate, and we would agree. Well, that's what a continuous improvement organization does. We're tackling every area as we can, and our staff's working very hard to continue to move that needle and get more kids at standard and above standard. So certainly the award shouldn't be discounted because there are some areas that we need to improve. But nonetheless, we're very excited and honored, and it's a great recognition for the community and our K-12 system. So great. I see Cheryl in here. It's pretty great stuff. So, but that's it. Those are the two I had. You bet.
Phil, you have anything?
I can actually throw out a few this time. Last night, Tom Albertson and I had the pleasure of going down to Coeur d'Alene with two students from each school and their parents, and the students got to pick the educator who had the biggest impact on their life. And it's really cool. I will say our district represented our kids represent our district very, very well. This was probably one of the most positive nights that I have seen in years of going down there, and it's awesome to see anywhere from a senior who has invited their kindergarten teacher to whatever high school teacher. It's awesome hearing what they have to say, and there was one student in particular that was down there that the teacher said, why me? I'm not special enough. And the kid threw down their speech and basically said, I'm going off topic right now, or off my speech right now, but you made a difference, and you have no idea the kind of difference you made in my life. And I mean, what a sweet thing to see teachers in tears down there because of the impact they make on kids' lives. It's really cool. The next one I'm going to talk about is our track system. It is picking up steam throughout the region and as far as Southeast Treasure Valley. Mullen High School adopted it this year. Lakeside High School, the superintendent, principal, and Europe coordinator came up probably about 3 weeks ago. They're going to be adopting it next year. I've had interest from Genesee down in Region 2, and I don't remember, but there's a school down in southern Idaho in Treasure Valley that is, they want to come up, but it's just a time issue. They leave their building. So it's really exciting. Mike Turnland, one of his articles was accepted by Perspectives Journal. It's put on by the Idaho Association of School Principals, and they're discussing that in there as well, so that's pretty sweet. It's always nice getting your name out for the positives.
Yeah.
Wampus Park, it's moving along. We have 18 disc golf cages that are now installed out there, and once again, we're getting calls from all over the place because there's
Wait, Wampus Park, what happened to Kemek Country
you
Links?
know, they didn't like the name, and so the kids get what they want.
All right.
So the grass is coming in slow this year. Our winter, the weeds are growing a lot faster than the grass is planted, I'll say. But it's coming along, and it's pretty exciting. We put the cages in on Friday, and there have already been people out playing the disc golf courses. So awesome.
Nice.
Yep, and then one last one, actually a couple. Idaho Forestry Competition. Last year was the first year our school participated in it, and we brought back a few first place awards, and that's happening on Thursday, and we're going to be down there again, so keep your fingers crossed. Our kids do very well down there. It's pretty cool when you go in your first year and you're competing against all those kids in other schools, and you're pulling some first places. That's awesome. And then state competition's right around the corner. We already have golf kids that they're going, and then we're waiting to see what happens with track and tennis. So, an eventful spring. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I think that's all we have in our crowd today. Okay, well, thank you all for coming today, and the meeting's adjourned.